Hello everyone, welcome again to yet another video. So today's video is a very interesting video because this has been one of my best trades in recent times. In fact, I could say even in my last many years of trading, this has been my best trade. But today I'm going to discuss this trade where I made 13 lakhs in just a week's time. So starting 27th of August till the 4th of 3rd of September. So I carried the trade for around 6 days and I made around 13 lakhs or investment of around 15 odd lakhs is the investment amount. But this is an FNO trade, so there was a margin involved. So that was probably I think investment was around 10 lakhs, margin was around, total value was around 40 lakhs. So the margin is 1:4. So that's pretty leveraged, I'd say. But I did have an additional money to take care of any losses because of gap down and all that. So keep this in mind and just don't think that this is an easy trade and you can just learn how to make money from this video. It's the objective of video is not that. The objective of this video is to teach you how to enter a trade, how I entered this trade and why I entered this trade, and what is the reason behind this trade and why I made so much money, and how was my psychology during this entire trade that I held for 1 week. Okay, so let's get started with this video. Okay, so as I said already, this is a FNO trade, so futures and options trade. Now, most of you might not know what is futures and options, but let me tell you right away that this is one of the most dangerous instruments to trade, especially if you're a beginner. So if you're a beginner, don't even think of entering the FNO space or the derivative space, at least for the first few years. So you should give your time to trade the cash stocks with full money and don't take leverage and just trade it plain, and you learn that trading for a few years, at least spend first 2-3 years trading cash stocks and see what is your skill set and what is your where are you succeeding the most, and that same strategy can be also used in futures. Okay, so but just before we jump, a few warnings, because a lot of you might be excited to see this video and a lot of you might be waiting for the holy grail strategy. There is no holy grail strategy in this video, so if you're looking for a holy grail strategy, it is not this video you have to be looking at. Okay, so FNO is a time bomb. Even Warren Buffett has said that FNO is a time bomb, and the time keeps ticking against you if the trade doesn't move in your direction. So obviously we have a stop loss, but you want the trade to move in your direction quickly so that you can make a good money in futures and options. Okay, so remember the risk is also very high. So in futures, if you talk about futures is leverage. So for example, if you're trading one lot of United Spirits or McDowell, which we're talking about today, so that one lot could actually mean that maybe I'll just write it here. So if you're talking about one lot of if you're trading one lot of UBL or United Spirits or McDowell, so you'll probably need a margin of 1.5 lakhs around, but you will be trading a total value of around 4 lakhs or 4.5 lakhs. I'm not sure about the exact amount, but that's the amount of leverage that you would be trading. So in my case, I invested around 10 lakhs, right? But the total value of this trade was around 40 lakhs, right? So which means if my stock gaps down tomorrow 10%, I will be losing 4 lakhs down. I'll be down by 4 lakhs, which means I will be losing 40% of my overall investment amount. Now that's the risk that you need to understand. But the trades you should be identifying in such a way that you're not buying a stock which has been in a continuous downtrend, because a stock which is in continuous downtrend has a chance of gapping down 10%. But here in this case, I mostly focus on stocks which are kind of breaking out or which in strong uptrend. So the chance of the stock gapping down anything more than 2-3% is very, very less. And that's the most important part in leverage, because this leverage can act completely against you. All you need is to lose this money, you just need a stock to go down by 25%. So if it gaps in 25%, you completely lose all the 10 lakhs. So that's the risk. But yeah, the chances of a gap down of 10% is very, very less, unless you're really trading a stock which is stuck in news recent times, like an S Bank or something like that. Okay, so remember the risk is very high, and options is something even riskier. For most of you might already know about options, because that's how most of you have entered markets. Options are basically instruments that they kind of move very fast depending on the movement of the stock. So for example, let's say UBL, for example, right? So I bought an option at around 30 rupees, right? So now this 30 rupees can quickly go down to 10 rupees, even if the stock, moves down 3 to 4%. So if the stock moves on 3 to 4%, which means at 752, a 3% move is around 20, 21, 25 points. So, and it easily goes down to 20, and you lose almost 66% of your entire amount. So this can happen very quickly. By the time you take a break and you come back, your stock, if it's down 3-4%, you lose so much of money. So that's the primary risk in options. So you need to be really, really careful and aware of what you're trading, especially if you're trading FNO, and what kind of options you're trading, which expiry or which strike you're trading. All this is required. Now I'll make a disclaimer here. I am still learning options, so there's still a long way to go for me. At least I'll take another probably 1 year to really understand options and how they work and all that. I have been trading options. I lost my trading options some time back. In the last few years, I did trade options. Even last recent months, I've traded options and I've made some losses, but the losses have not been as big as the losses I used to make back in 2016-17, because now I understand the concept of risk management. So I know, I understand, at least delta, what is delta in options, and at least, if option moves so much, how much the in the money option will move. So another disclaimer here, I don't trade anything apart from in the money options. It's mostly in the money options which I trade, because that moves almost close to futures. So if the futures moves 1 rupee, this will probably move 0.5 rupees, so half of that. So the moment you start trading deep in the money options, then it almost trades like futures. Okay, so don't forget that option buyers are always trading against time. So even if the stock doesn't, for example, you buy an option here, and if the stock doesn't move for 5-6 days, your option will start moving down very fast, and you need that momentum for the option to start moving higher. Okay, so that's the risk against option buying. And remember, around 90-95%, I'm not getting that, 90-95% of the people always lose money or on in options. In fact, that already 5% of people make money in markets, but also remember that 90% of the option premiums in all strikes kind of expire worthless. So let's say you had United Spirits at 750. Now you'll have multiple option strikes like 700, then you'll have 710, 720, 730, like that. You'll have a lot of different options, and what they say is that 90% of the options in all the strikes expire worthless almost. So probably options around 750 would make money, but anything below, all the put options below 750 would be trading worthless if it's close expiry, and all the call options above 755 odd would be trading worthless. So if you're holding anything options, then you should know that that most of the option buyers or most of the option strikes do end up worthless. So you need to be in the right option. So we'll also discuss how I did this trade shortly. And remember, in FNO, since it's a time bomb, you can lose money. You can literally lose everything of money you've invested in a matter of days. Okay, if the stock just goes against you, you're gone. So that's one of the highest risk in FNO, and that's the reason why I also lost money initially when I started off. But I did not lose that much to not go bankrupt, right? So right now I do have the capital, to cover up my, in case the trade goes wrong, I do have the capital to kind of, go the other way and, sell some call options or buy some put options or something like that. So mostly I'm an option buyer, I'm not an option seller. And I understand the risks in option selling. That's the reason I don't do option selling. I don't want to do option selling as well. And I'm not putting any effort towards, learning option selling. So I'm focusing purely on option buying and more towards, if I buy a futures, probably hedge it with a put or something like that, but never option selling, especially not intraday. I'm not an intraday person. I'm more of a positional trading person, and I'm implementing the same strategy that I use for stocks, even in options, but on the lower time frames. Okay, so we'll look at that shortly. Okay, so as I said, if you're a beginner, you should not be looking at derivatives for the first few years at least. So don't get excited looking at this video, especially because even I was one of that kind when I was just entering markets, and I also got excited a lot looking at people making a lot of money in options. But later I realized it really needs a different level of skill sets, and that skill set doesn't come very easily. Okay, it needs a lot of experience. You need to be trading option stocks first, and then gain experience stocks, and then move to options. Okay, so let's not waste more time, and let's jump into the trade itself, right? So how did I find this trade? So that's the first thing, right? So you need to find a stock first to trade. Okay, so let's look at that first. Now, most of you know that my primary indicator that I use for scanning is, CCI 34 on the weekly and daily time frame. So if you see here, Okay, I'll just draw some resistance and this one so that you understand, right? So if you see, this was a major resistance for United Spirits since 2020 June, right? It has been going sideways within a rectangle, right? So in fact, you can call this as a rectangle pattern, not a perfect one, but a kind of rectangle pattern. Or if you don't want to call that, this is probably, kind of ascending triangle pattern as well. You might, you can say it falls among both. It's not a very clear pattern, right? So you can say this is a rectangle pattern because we kind of got rejected there. Price came down all the way down, price went up, and again it came down, again reversed. So this stock has been in my scanner for a few weeks because it was always the first time it came was here when it crossed 100, when the CCI indicator crossed 100. So it was 99 here, and then it crossed 100, went to 160, and this was a one-way move up from from 516, or it went all the way up to 680, and then it has been consolidating for many weeks, right? So it has been consolidating for almost 8 weeks, right? From here it has been consolidating and retested the breakout zone, right? And again the stock came again in my scanner this week, right? So the week of 16 August when again came in my scanner. So this time I knew that the stock has real momentum because it has broken that previous consolidation zone, and it has again gone up with very good volumes. In fact, this is one of the highest volumes in since July 20, right? In fact, yeah, it's almost equal to 25 million shares, and here also 25 million shares. So that's almost a 1 year high in volume, and it also has crossed the previous resistance, and it is close to the next resistance, which is this, right? So that's the next resistance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus only on this candle here, and I'm going to do the daily time frame. So this week was completed, which means this candle was complete, and then it came in my scanner again. So then I went to the daily charts, and I saw that there was a massive move. If you see, the opening here was 658, and it went all the way up to 724 and closed at 724. So that's almost a 10% move in just one day, and then the stock started correcting and it came back all the way here, right? So I have been tracking this stock for some time because I'll also show you my trade journal. I don't take that many trades, so it's all about finding the right setup and patiently waiting for it. So I kind of patiently was waiting, and also someone from the Trade with 10 Investor series also kind of talked about the stock, and then I saw that this was the day that it was kind of retesting. So I kind of even mentioned in that live session that it's probably retesting and it's almost done. Okay, now by the way, if you don't know what is the Trade with 10 Investor series, it is a series where I trade cash stocks, positional trades with a real capital of 1 lakh, and I do share that live trades every day at 11 p.m. I discuss the trades I take, and also mention the reasoning why we enter, why we exit, and how we pyramid. So that's a very important series in case you want to look at trading cash stocks for position trades. And there is when also someone plotted this, and I said probably we are retesting on this day. Okay, and then what I did on the 26th of August is when I took my very first trade. Okay, so let's look at the trade. So I have prepared a sheet, so that you understand how I've done the trades. Okay, so 26th of August here, if you see, this is my Zerodha trade book. I've just downloaded and kept it for you. Now, in case you want to see the PNL, I also share the PNL. I also show the PNL shortly, but do wait until you see the PNL. Okay. So here, if you see, the first trade was on the 26th of August around 11:26. Right. So 11:26 is the first time I bought 1250 one lot of United Spirits at 36. And then I bought another one lot at 36, then 37. After 4 minutes, I bought another lot at 37, and 34. So that was the first bunch of lots I bought. So I want to 4, 5, 6 slots of United Spirits at an average price of around 36, right? So that was the first trade. Now let's look at why did I take that particular time on 26th of August? Why did I take that trade, right? So just going into the hourly charts, sorry, 5-minute charts. Yeah, well, let's give it some time to come back, right? So meanwhile, we can look at this sheet again. So the first set of lots I bought was purely in options, because I know that options can move very fast, and if I'm on the right side, probably I'll make some money. So I did expect, yeah, we are back. So I did expect this one to move very fast, because it has been in a sideways consolidation. Now, one of the prime reasons why I selected this stock is because the momentum is very strong before, right? So the momentum has been really strong and has been going up. So it shows that this momentum can continue after some consolidation, right? Now, 26th of August is the first time I traded. Again, going back to the time, it was around 11:30 odd. And if you see, the reason why I bought 11:30 is because we're kind of reversing. So on the 25th of August, that was the bottom, right? So that was the low, and then on the 26th of morning, that low did not breach, and we kind of reversed strongly from that lows again. And the previous higher high is this one, right, is this point. Now, if you've been following me on my Nifty views daily at 11 p.m., you'd understand that I'm a very strong believer of lower high, lower lows, and swing high, swing lows. So for me, it has been a continuous, low highs since that, in the 5 minutes time frame, since that high. And the first time here we formed a high, then we couldn't make a lower low. So in fact, we made a lower low here, but it kind of reversed and came back all the way, right? And now it is trying to breach again that previous higher high. So this was a previous higher high, and it's trying to breach that point. Now that is the first time, I saw there was strong strength in the stock, and I kind of thought this is the bottom. So I decided my stop loss is 675 on a spot basis. We were at 690 odd, and the first time I started triggering my orders is at 11:30, right? So when it started consolidating. So if you see, 11:26 is my first order. So when it started consolidating here is when I started buying this option, right? So I bought the first 3 lots around 11:25 to 11:30, first 6 lots, and then in the afternoon around 1:40, 1:45, I bought the remaining lots. So total I bought around 15,000 quantity, right? So that's around more than 10 lots, or you can say. So here I started buying. So around 1:40. Again, the stock kind of had momentum, and again around 1:40 is when I started buying next, right? So 1:40 is somewhere around here, right? So what I'm doing is I'm buying within this rectangle range. Now many people can tell, you can tell that why didn't I wait and buy at the lows, right? Now, yeah, that's a perfect way to buy, right? But I'm just deploying some percentage of my capital, and I'm not going full in yet. I'd be going full in once I have a better price to enter. So my first buy was here, the second buy was around here when it was consolidating. Now, to be honest, in a live session when you're trading, it's really difficult to understand and trade. So all I do is I follow swing high, swing lows, and I also look at trend lines, right? So if you look at this trend line, so this trend line was kind of trying to, the first attempt was here, right, and then it came all the way down, and then it moved up, and now it is forming horizontal resistance. So I know the trend line has completely broken. So the trend is now changing from a downtrend to a consolidation. It is still not changed to an uptrend, but I'm trying to catch that moves over here. Okay, so my first buy, the second buy, and then it went all the way down, and I was in a bit of loss that day, but it was completely under my control because I was ready to lose around 1 lakh. In fact, let's jump into the sheets. The trade sheet itself. Yeah, I've told you about scanner rule. It's on this time frame which I bought. So I try to find stocks which are really strong based on the price action. The scanner doesn't mean directly I'll go and trade that stock. Okay, so I kind of use the scanners to give me the stocks, and then I go through my plain eyes. Okay, so I bought 70,500 quantity at 36.33, and that day I think it went back to 32, 33 levels, and I was okay with that. It was a minor loss comparing to my overall capital, so I was really comfortable in that in taking that risk. So I think risk amount was around 1 lakh is what I kept. I defined that and I kept it, and overall I knew that I could afford even a little more than 1 lakh, but I just defined my risk as 1 lakh, and I kept my stop loss on the option basis. Option basis, my stop loss around 725 odd levels, right? So moment it comes to probably 670, 680 again, probably that's the point I have to be really careful, because my defined risk amount would be probably hit, and I should probably exit that trade, right? But yeah, this was going well, and next day again morning, if you see 26th, just towards the end of the day, it kind of had a spike again, and then it closed towards 686. Okay, so end of the day I was I don't think I was in much loss. I was totally fine except for this dip here, and then it kind of closed there. Now next day morning again, so I was again tracking this, and next day morning, if you just see end of the day here, we had nice volumes, and that gave me some confidence that this trade, in the morning we had some good volumes, right? 26th of August morning we had some good volumes, we had some consolidation, but again towards the end of the day we had some really good volumes as well. So overall this trade really looked to me that the consolidation is over, downtrend is over, and the volume has been picking up really well. Now if you go to the 15-minute charts, you will observe that much better, right? You see the volume pick up. Now the volumes have been completely dry, and suddenly the volume is starting to pick up. We've had nice volumes on those lower time frames, right? So volumes have been really good, and it is kind of forming on 26th August, kind of rejected twice, and below it was kind of forming a base. Now these are the things that I was looking at. Now next day morning, if you see on the 26th of July, I took only options trade and invested 6.35 lakhs. Now next day morning I bought another 5 lots of futures worth 42 lakhs. So the overall contract money of this futures was 42 lakhs, but the money deployed, or margin amount that I deployed, was around 10 lakhs, right? So 9.5 lakhs. So if you see, that's almost 4 times leverage. So as I mentioned before, if the stock gapped down, then I would be losing some significant money. But I was ready because I had extra money as well. So this is not all the money I had. I had a lot of other, I have some other expense, some other money kept aside. So in case even if it gaps down, then probably, I can do something, and I'll just probably exit as well. So it's simple as that. Just exiting the trade also is totally fine, right? But I knew that risk. The point here is accepting that risk of gap down in futures and options. Okay. Yeah. So this was the setup I was looking at next day. So kind of had a wedge forming, and then we had a horizontal formation as well. So next day morning on the 27th of September, right? So 27th of August, sorry for the dates. Now if you see here, okay, also another reason, one of the reasons that I took this trade is, I'm sorry, it's just all the way. Yeah. So another reason why I took this trade is because of this trend line, right? So this was in fact the first reason why I was convinced to take this trade, because on 26th August, this was a perfect reversal. I mean, a perfect reversal for me is this. It has a second touch point, and third, it comes and forms a perfect doji. And if you look at this previous candles here on the early charts, there is this nice demand, right? I'm just going to take a brush to identify it. So there's this nice demand wick, right? These are demand wicks. So it shows that the selling is kind of getting over, right? And also this trend line here, I'm just going to remove everything. So this trend line is one of the primary reasons, and then there is this downward trend line which is kind of getting broken out. Okay, so this was the first time we saw some good buying in the 10:15 in the morning. So after 9:15 we had this candle. Okay, now again on the next day on 27th of August. Okay, so this is the 27th of August. So here, right? So morning, what happens is we form a nice wick and then we start dropping. So what I did is I knew that this trend line here could probably act as a support, because also if you see this line over here, okay, I'm just going to kind of remove everything. So also if you see that morning, we kind of had a dip towards this trend line. So my trade, the next trade that I triggered for futures is at that time, is going back to the trade log. Right, so next futures trade I bought 6,250 shares at 684, exactly 933.01, right? So 933.01 is this, right? So this is the 930 candle. So 933 is exactly at this bottom. So I bought this because it was retesting, and probably my stop loss here was 675 for the entire trade. So 675 is my stop loss. I'm entering here, and I'm probably seeing that this is probably done with, just a retest, and I'm thinking that this is a good time to enter. Now the moment I enter, the next 5 minutes onwards, stock starts moving up, and I'm totally in profits. I have no problem whatsoever because my stop loss is it has gone higher, and also if you see, we have kind of broken out from this level. The moment we break out from this level, then I'm moving my stop back to 680 odd. Okay, so 680 is odd my stop. Then I just let it move higher. Okay, I'm just waiting for the day and it just keeps trading higher, and the entire day we kind of consolidated. Now what I did is, so if you see here, we kind of moved into 700 territory from 680 territory. Now initially, if you observe, I bought a 680 CE of 70,500 quantity of 680 CE, and yeah, risk was amount around 1.5 lakhs for the entire position, right? So if you take this, it's around 1.5 lakhs risk, right, including the positions, the futures position. So futures position was 684, stop loss 675, so I'd lose 56,000. And here, if this option goes against my trade, so entirely I was okay to lose around 1.5 lakhs. Now here, if you see the P&L, here I booked the 680 CE around 140 that afternoon. So 140 that afternoon, if you see this is entire 680 CE, I kind of booked that at 39 or at 140. The reason I booked is because I started seeing consolidation around 140 on 27th August, and I thought that I should be moving to a higher strike price. So I sold off the 680 CE at around 39 odd. I booked, I think, around 30,000 or something, right? Yeah, 37,450 is what I booked, and then I moved on to the 700 CE. It's simple as that. Okay, now how am I trailing my stop loss? You might ask, how am I trailing stop loss? Now, for the entire portion, since I was in profit, so this price I moved it to cost. So 684 was my stop loss for the entire position. So 684 would have been somewhere around here. Okay, let's open the futures so that it's a little better to understand. Okay, so we're on the 27th of August. Right, so we're here, right? So 684 is somewhere around here, right? So I moved my stop loss cost to cost. Okay, and I knew, so my targets for this trade was again the previous high, which was around 730 odd. Okay, so the first target was around 730 odd, because I knew that if it heads higher, then this is the first level where I should be probably cautious. And then if it breaks this, I know it's going to head higher. Now, usually in my stock trades, if you observed my live sessions, I always say the first target is the previous high. Okay, and then from there it can head even higher. So what I did is that day, I kind of, I'm just going back here, right? So we kind of closed around here on the 27th of August. We kind of closed around here, and I was totally fine to just this trade go as it is. I don't trail my stop loss yet. Remember, I did not trail my stop. Okay, so I let the trade run as it is, and then next day we had a gap up. So on the 30th of August, we had a gap up, and then the stock kind of consolidated again for some time, and then it went all the way high. Now, what I was tracking here is a trend line. Now, the trend line I'm tracking here is a trend line which I just drew. All right, so this trend line should not break for me. I'm sorry. Yeah, this trend line. I hope it's visible. So this trend line here is what it should not break. So I kind of said, okay, probably I'll exit once this trend line breaks. Okay, and then we had a dip from here. We hit the highs again. We kind of had a dip, and I was, to be honest, a little cautious or a little worried of that trade, because it kind of broke here and it formed an inverted, a head and shoulders pattern. I kind of had a dip, but I saw this gap over here. You see, there's a gap on 30th of August. There's a gap here. So I'm just waiting to see if that gap fills, and this probably, if this breaks, then I'd be out of this trade completely. So I'd have made a minor profit, not much. Okay, for the risk that I took, I'd have made a very minor profit, but still it would not have been a losing trade. Okay, so that's also very important. Once you enter a trade, you should not let it go down into losses again. So at least exit at cost to cost. So in fact, at this point, I was sitting in a very good profits, but I kind of gave up most of them. Now I'll just show how this ride was, right? So if you see here, I have kind of entered the highs and lows on the 15 minutes time frame. So as soon as I entered at 684 odd, right, 684 odd, and the option was at 29 odd, right? So if you see, the 700C was 29 odd. So I converted my 680 to 700. I rolled over them to the next strike price. Okay, so if you see here, it went from 29 to 34, 34 to 30, and it went all the way to 41 and came back to 26. Now this is exactly what happened here, right? It went all the way to 40, 41, right? This level, and it came back to 26. Now in this trade, emotionally, it is difficult to accept, but I think over a period of time, you will start, just letting the trade go as it is, because you know that it will go higher and it has some more thing. Now, many people might say that I should have booked profits. I kind of agree to that, but it's up to you how you want to take the trade, how you want to, trail your stop loss. I was okay to give back, in fact, some profits to let it go a little higher as well. So here, it went from 30 all the way to 41 and came to 26. So I was in 2.5 lakhs profit in the options trade. I was overall in the futures, I was in 2.5 lakhs. So overall, I was in 5 lakhs profit. But then that 5 lakhs came back all the way to 44,000. Now still I'm learning. As I said, still I'm learning. So probably I should have booked, around 3 lakhs around, but I just let the trade to go because I was not in losses. Okay. So then what happened? The trade again went all the way, right? So I knew that this was the top. Then we came all the way here. We went from 5 lakhs to 40,000 odd, right? Now, this entire thing, the only thing I was thinking is probably this is forming a cup and handle pattern. To be honest, I did think that it is forming a cup and handle, and I knew that after this high, there would be some sell-off. That always happens, right? Now, some people might say, then why did you book here, right? Because I wanted much higher targets. I wanted it to go a little higher, and that's the reason why I left it, right? So, okay, so then we came here. Then next day morning again, if you see, we kind of gapped up, not gap up. Next day morning, we kind of opened here on 1st of September, and we came down, and then we went all the way up. And again, there was this wick thing candle here. Now I kind of decided that I will not, probably give back much. And then I said, 40,000, whatever it is, I'm going to exit at this price. Okay, so if it goes below that, then I'm totally out of this trade. Okay, so that was the stop loss, then I reset it. So then we had this follow-up candle around 245.3. Now remember, any trade which goes up after 230, there's a very high chance that next day that trade might continue. Okay, so then we had a breakout here, and this is when I also trailed my stop loss towards this point at 717. Now at this point, I had around 3 lakhs profit, which I was assuring myself. And then towards the 230, when we had a breakout, I trailed my stop here. Then we went all the way high, and then next day morning we again opened gap up, and then we went sideways. So here again, this entire day was sideways, and this is the first time that this stock made me worry, because there was a nice wick which is forming on the top that shows selling pressure, right? But it could be just one day. So what I did is I again kind of started forming another trend line here, right? So this trend line here is what first I was looking at. right? So this trend line, this here, very short-term trend line. And then once we had the move here, right? So next day morning, if you see we had a move here, then I start trail my stop loss to this point. Okay. Now the trend is also getting steeper. Now if you see, the trend is initially at this level, and now the trend is getting very steep. So which means the space is picking up in the stock, and the space might die out very soon, right? So that was the next point I was looking at, that trend line over there. And then let's remove the remaining things, right? So that's the trend line. Yeah, so that's the trend line, and then we kind of closed just right below the trend line. But remember, I then might have trailed all my stop loss to this point because I was sitting in very good profits at this time. So then next day morning again we had a gap up, and then we went all the way high, and then we kind of started dropping. Then what I did, my stop loss was this low here and this trend line break. Okay, so when it kind of finally broke from this 1240 1245 is when I started selling off, and you would see those trades getting executed here. Okay, so around 1240 is when, 1247 on the 3rd of September is when I started selling my 700 CE. Okay, so I did have some extra money because I have good profit, so some margin came up in my account. So I did buy some 750 CE, in the morning at 10, and I sold it off at, in some minor profits around 33 is when I sold off remaining things. Okay, so next day, 3rd of September, I started selling off around 1247 to 1256, right? So 1247 is somewhere here, right, when I kind of broke this previous swing low, right? So that's how the entire trade went. So it was a roller coaster ride. Again, I'm reminding you, this is not an easy trade to execute if you're a newbie in markets. You see the swing, right? So I went from 3 lakhs profit initially to 1.6, again to 5, then back to 44, then again to 5, again to 3, again to 13 lakhs, again 9 lakhs, and top 18 lakhs. So at one point it was close to 19 lakhs around. Maybe this number is different, but it was one point was close to 18.5 to 19 lakhs, and then finally I booked around 13.73. Right now, a lot of questions might arise here whether I did the right thing, to not book the profits here and let it go. Now, remember the risk I took is, around 1.5 lakhs is the risk I took. And, at 5, usually I aim for 4-5 risk reward. And options, if they do really well, if stock has some momentum, then it can do really well. But one of the primary reasons that I let this stock to go is, this previous momentum. Every time there's a move up, there's a very strong momentum, right? So that's one of the primary reasons why I let the stock I held the stock for a few days, and from 684 to 750 odd, I think was a good ride. But also one of the other reasons why I sold the stock off is this sell-off which happened after 3rd of September, and there was a spike which was there right on the top, right? So I was sensing that there's selling pressure, and the short term the stock might consolidate for a few more days and then probably head higher, or tomorrow also, giving a Monday also, it might head higher as well. Another reason why I sold off the stock is I didn't want to sit on such big profits on a weekend. Probably if it's a fresh position, maybe I could think, but I didn't want to give back all those profits, right? So overall, I think this was a decent trade for me. A lot of learnings for me as well, and I'm going to share some of the learnings with you as well. So just going to unhide this. Okay, don't forget I'm yet to share my PNL, so just wait with me. So position tradings and options can be actually highly rewarding because if you're able to find those moves, right? For example, there are many such trades, right? So if you're able to catch, this move here, right? So this move you're able to catch, probably in a position trade, even if you held for 5-6 days, you'd have made some decent money. But the point is, you might also, end up in losses because sometimes it might not really work for you, because for example, if you're entered here, then this trade have ended up in loss, right? So this was not a proper breakout because this trend line, I had not been taking this trade because this trend line was very steep, and and even if I entered this, I'd have been out of this trade with some minor loss, right? But this was a better trade, right? So to take this one was a much better trade because this was a nice downtrend, and now we are making new higher highs, and probably this was a good one to take. But remember, in option buying, you need momentum to be on your side. If the momentum is not on your side, then you would not make much money. Now, the next point I want to discuss is the strike that you're taking. The strike here that I've taken is all in the money options. For example, 680, when McDowell was trading at 680, I took 680 options, and when it moved to 700, I moved on 700 options. And liquidity is a very big problem, especially even I did have some difficulties exiting the quantity, so I had to sell partially, a few lots at a time, and that's how I did. And I never placed market orders. Remember, I always placed limit orders, and that's why I booked the entire lot size. So some might say this is really high lots, Yes, I agree. But if you have the capital, then why not, right? So ensure you need to have a decent amount of capital to trade if futures and options. I'd suggest at least minimum 10 lakhs. Without that, don't even think of entering futures and options. So 680, 700 and 750, that's why this was a small amount, but 680 and 700 was completely in the money options, and I was comfortable with in the money options. Out of the money options would really, the premium would come down very fast. So you have to be really careful. And remember, the risk is very, very high. So you need to be really, really, on the trade. You need to keep observing it at least for a few hours. If you're at office, you need to ensure that you have the time to, focus on the trade, and never over leverage. So for example, if you have 10 lakhs, probably should not be buying 5 lakhs more than, you should not be holding 5 lakhs of more than futures in the entire contract value I'm speaking about here. And the reason I'm saying that is, in case tomorrow it gaps down, you need to have some money probably to kind of do something else. You don't have to go bankrupt, and you should not be losing probably more than 5% at any point in time. So in this case, I'd have probably lost around 2%, probably less than that as well. Around 1.5% is what I'd have lost, probably 1.5 to 2% odd. Okay, so always define your risk first. My objective when I'm teaching in my Trade with 10 Line series has always been to focus on your risk, and that's very, very important. Okay, and be ready for huge fluctuations in MTM, and it is up to you how you want to let the trade go. Now, if I had booked here 5 lakhs, then probably I would have made more money, right? But it would have been a prudent decision to book at 5. It completely depends on your style. Like, I'm more of position trader, and I like seeing big profits, and I'm okay to take a few small losses for such big trades. Okay, probably this might come once in every 10 trades, probably 10% of the time I would have such trades, but that's what defines my PNL. Now in this case, if you see, I have a risk reward of 13R, right? So which means if I risk 1 rupee, I have gained 13 times of that money. In the options trade and in the futures trade, I've gained 8 times of that trade. Now that's a fantastic RR, but my accuracy is not more than 40%, to be honest. And yeah, these are the trades that bring up my PNL, keeps my PNL in a good shape. Okay, so again, just a last disclaimer, I am still learning in options. I'm still at least a year away before I start completely trading options, and I'm very comfortable with it. I'm still not very comfortable because with the amount of money I have, with the amount of money I'm deploying, I'm still not very comfortable. Probably small amounts I'd not be really worried trading, but when I want to trade a decent position size, I need more experience in this, and I'm making the disclaimer right away. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this trade. Before we jump off, I'll just show the PNL. So this is the PNL, that I took. I did show you the trade book, but this is the PNL. Probably I'll just refresh this here just to show you this. Right, so that's refreshed. I did have a few trades which I take every now and then. I did lose also some money, 60,000 something. I lost once. Here I lost 1,000. So yeah, I do take trades, but very, very rarely. I need a best setup because I've learned this lesson throughout my last many years, and I knew, and the only learning for me is wait patiently, and you should just go full on when you have the right setup right in front of you. Okay, still I can improve on my entries and exits as well, but that's still a learning process. So that's my PNL for you on the different trades. So around 7.9 in the options, 700C option, 4.6 in the futures, and some small amounts in the other options. Okay, so that's probably a little more than 13 lakhs. And yeah, so if you have any doubts in this trade on how I executed this trade, do let me know in the comment section. I'd be more than happy to answer you. And if you like this video, don't forget to share it with your friends because there's a lot of learning in this video on how I executed the trade, how I used trend lines, and how I found the setup, because it was a retest and it was a perfect trend line retest. And that's the main reason why I entered this trade, because of this confluence of support zones. I will cover this at some point, but that's the primary reason, and that's how I trade pullbacks. That I'm one of the best in pullbacks. In fact, I have done a lot of trades in pullbacks and I made some decent money. ICIL also was one of the setups which I discussed some time back. Okay, so it's a long video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did like it, do share it with your friends, and I hope to see you in another